What's going on, guys? Johnny the House Fire here. Today we are going to talk about credit. How to fix your credit if you have a low score, how to qualify for higher credit limits, how to get business credit to separate personal and business financials, how to build 100,000 in credit lines, and talk about why business credit is different, how business credit is different from personal credit, and why it's important for your real estate business or any business, right? I mean, it can be done for anything. And we got some hellos. Yang says hello. Hello, Yang. How you doing? Good to see you. So I got with me my friend and business leader, business partner, business man, investor, big time player, Neel Raguboopathi. Thanks for joining us, Neel. Appreciate it, as always.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Before we get started, could you give us a little bit of background about you, how you got started, and where you're at now?
Yeah, sure. I started off with John's YouTube videos, of course, a couple of years ago.
It's been that long, huh?
What was that?
It's been that long, huh?
Wow. Yeah. What is it, 2 years now, 3 years now?
Wow.
But yeah, got started with those videos, sent out a bunch of letters to start off, got a deal, and just kind of everything snowballed from there. I do real estate investing, wholesaling, fix and flips. I do digital marketing, all different types of businesses. And so, credit is something that I've kind of had to learn about over time to scale every business as quickly as I can instead of just relying on cash that I have, So, yeah, I feel like it's a very important topic to know. And so I'm excited to share that with everyone today.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Definitely. Credit. A lot of people don't understand credit, especially the differences between business credit, personal credit, how they intertwine and how they are separate, right? I mean, so I'm sure we'll be going through a lot of that, but so definitely is something that people should know. And I'm definitely glad that you're willing to share that with us through your personal experiences and, personal facts, not just reading stuff from a book, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so cool. The first thing that we're going over today is just kind of how to fix your credit if you have a low score. Generally, for people that don't have bankruptcies or late payments or collections or anything like that, it's really simple to do so. It's probably just your credit card utilization, which is how much of your credit limits on your credit cards you're using. And there are different data points on FICO. And before I get into all that, just keep in mind that if you use Credit Karma or NerdWallet or one of those free credit score tools, that's not your actual credit score that lenders pull. All of those scores are what's called a Vantage score. And so that's a different scoring model. It's come up with by a different company than the FICO scores that are on most of your applications that are pulled. If you've applied for a credit card, I'm sure you get a letter in the mail after you get approved saying, oh, we pulled your credit file from this bureau. This was your FICO score. That FICO score is a paid algorithm. And so unless you're paying some sort of a subscription somewhere, you're usually looking at your Vantage score, which is significantly different than your FICO score. So
and to interject, also sometimes even your credit card companies, right, they will use the Vantage score instead of the real FICO score when they show it to you online and stuff. And you have to read the little thing because I was talking to them and they're like, I'm like, man, I didn't know a FICO score could go up to 900, whatever it is. Like, no, it's a Vantage score. So I'm like, oh, okay. So
yeah, FICO scores fall within the range of about 300 to 850. Now there is a caveat. There are different types of FICO scores. So the most widely used FICO score today is the FICO 8, but there is also the FICO 9 version that's out. It's just not widely adopted yet. So within the FICO 8 score and just within FICO scores in general, there are different types of FICO scores that different lenders pull. For example, there's an auto FICO score, there's a bank card FICO score. So all the different lenders, like mortgages, they pull different FICO scores, and it's entirely up to the lender what type of FICO score they're pulling. but generally they're pulling from FICO, not from VantageScore, right? And so there is a resource. It's called myfico.com. And so if you go to this website, you can essentially everything I'm telling you about credit, the basic knowledge, you can find on that website, and you can also find your actual FICO score on that website too. And so, there are different categories within the FICO score, right? You've got excellent, very good, good, and so on and so forth of your credit rating. And so based on data points of where you're at, you can be at different ranges for different categories, right? For example,
let me interrupt again. Sorry, dude, Neil. Before I forget my stuff, right? So the myfico.com is very important because I actually have a affiliation with business credit lending, and they require anyone who applies for credit to have an account with myfico.com. So very important. That's what they use, and I'll pitch it later. We'll tell you about it later. There's no pitches here. Like I guess I should say before we get started. I forgot, but we're not here to sell you some stuff, but we will give you some resources and stuff like that. So don't worry about pulling out your wallet because we're not going to ask you for money. Go for it, Neil. Sorry, bro.
No worries. So there are different categories that are weighted differently as far as how your credit is calculated. For example, the number of inquiries you have is 10% of your score. The number of accounts and the categories of accounts is 10% of your score. At age of credit history is 15%, and utilization is 30% of your score. So it's the second highest category, right behind payment history. So like I said, with that, as long as you don't have any collections or late payments or foreclosures or anything like that, the biggest thing that's bringing your score down is that 30%, which is the utilization. So with utilization, if you have a $10,000 credit limit, for example, and you're using $9,500 every single month, you're at 95% utilization, which is the worst category you can be in, which is the worst sector you can be in for that particular portion of your credit score. And so if you've got nothing derogatory on your file, if you don't have the late payments, collections, foreclosures, bankruptcies, you don't have any of that, and your score is below a 680, for example, if you bring your utilization down below 30% and even further below 10%, you're going to see your score skyrocket 50, 100 points even, just depending on how the rest of your credit file is.
Now I heard that, and we're going to talk about some myths and stuff too. So I heard that if you don't use your credit utilization, if you don't at all, then it can be, your credit score can be lower. The creditors want to see you be using it some, but just not too much. Now, what do you think about that?
So according to myfico.com, right, the breakdown is the excellent range is between 0 and 10%.
Oh, nice.
So anywhere from 0.001% to 9.9%, right? So you have to use, even if you have a dollar balance, you're still in that excellent range. But if you're 0 on your statements across all cards, then yeah, that will slightly hurt your score. But it's one of those things where if you're doing $9,500, 95% utilization every single month for every single card, that 0% utilization is not going to hurt as much as that 95% utilization. You know what I mean? So you just start getting to 30%. If you can't get under 10%, but you don't have to, use a huge chunk of your credit to improve your score, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you said utilization is 30%. Second to payment history. Do you know what payment history percentage? 35%. Okay. Wow. Okay. So you pay on time, right? You got to pay on time.
Yeah, pay on time. So that's payment history is lumped together, but it's half and half with payment, just 100% payment history. If you don't have any late payments, also whether or not you have any derogatory marks on your credit report, which those derogatory marks only come out of late payments. So if you just focus on always paying on time, you really won't run into that, generally speaking. So they kind of lump that together, and that's 35% of your score.
Okay. So pay on time, and then utilization. So utilization. So if you have a lot of credit, you could use more than if you don't, if you have less credit, right? So the idea is to get a high credit limit. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you've got $100,000 in credit limits, right, and you're using $9,500, then you're at 9.5%, which is significantly better than being at 95%. And from the original example where you only have a $10,000 credit line. So, you won't be able to get new credit if your utilization is at 95%. But if you can bring that down and scale your credit lines, then you can use that money and leverage it properly.
Cool.
So basically, the different sections for example, for utilization, right? Their excellent category is 0 to 9%. Their good category is 10 to 29%. That's why we say, be under 30% if possible. Fair is between 30 and 49. Poor is between 50 and 74, and very poor is 75 and up, right? So if you're over 75% utilization, your credit's going to be pretty bad.
So we're just not talking about revolving credit here, are we? We're talking about like your car loan or your house loan, or are we talking about just revolving credit?
So as far as everything except utilization, it's all types of lending. But for utilization, it has to be a revolving account because you can't really calculate utilization on a loan because it's a fixed loan, it's a fixed payment, you're just paying it down every month. Now, if you have a line of credit, that's not a credit card, but just a line of credit that you can log into and transfer money to your checking account right away, with those, utilization count again. But if you've got like a personal loan or an auto loan, you want to get that balance down, keep paying every month, but that's not really going to hurt your score as far as having a high balance because, that's not counted towards utilization.
Gotcha.
And for example, like the American Express Platinum card and the American Express Gold card, they're both considered charge cards, right? So you can't carry a balance. Every month you have to pay it down to zero. And so there's no interest, there's no balance. So, if that card statements and you have a $10,000 balance, it doesn't really affect your utilization because credit bureaus know that it's a charge card. So there is no utilization because there is no credit line, right?
Yeah, makes sense. So does that go? That would be counted towards your credit limit, right? If you had the gold card or the.
No, it wouldn't be because
okay.
It's not a credit card; it's a charge card. So it's basically you spend on it, but you got to pay off the whole balance. So it's not really, yeah. So we talk about utilization now. For some people, it's not just the utilization, right? I led with the caveat of if you don't have any late payments or anything like that, then utilization is your thing. If you've got late payments, if you got bankruptcies, if you have collections, all of those things can be taken off your credit report. It's just extremely difficult to, right? For example, late payments. As long as you're over 65% on time on any one account, you can get late payments removed on that account. Bankruptcies, you can get removed. Foreclosures, you can get removed. All this stuff you can get removed. It's just you have to do it correctly, and you have to be very careful about how you go about doing that, basically.
So you're saying that, I know that like whatever, chapter 7, chapter 11 or whatever, they stay on for like 7 or 10 years or something like that, right? After that, they drop off. Are you saying you can get those removed before that time frame?
Absolutely.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So you got to think about it like this, right? Every credit bureau, when they get reported information and that consumer challenges it, they have to be able to confirm it and verify it, right? So essentially what that means is, let's say you're walking down the street, John, and you run into a guy and he says, "Hey, my name is Daniel," right? And he gets into a car accident and, 5 minutes later, the cops are asking you, "Hey, do you know what his name was?" And you tell them, "Yes, it was Daniel," right? So now you can tell them it's accurate, but you have no way of verifying that because you can't produce his license, you can't produce his social security card, you can't produce any verifiable proof, right? So if you say the right things and challenge it the correct way, the credit bureaus and the people and the different companies that put things on your credit report might be able to, say that it was accurate. And again, it probably is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But most of them are not able to verify it.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I didn't know that.
And so, it's just one of those things where you still have to be careful about it, because there are a lot of credit repair companies that will do the same templated letters that everyone kind of knows about, and they'll charge you on a monthly fee, drag it out for as long as they can, because they're getting paid monthly whether it works or not. And so you just got to be careful about who you hire if you decide to hire someone, and you have to make sure you're doing it right if you do it yourself.
So that's kind of like a dangerous or a tricky kind of thing, right? I mean, you don't want to be fraudulent or anything, but you want to make your credit as clean as possible. That's
right. And the thing is, obviously I'm all for being ethical, staying on the right side and everything, right? And so you're at any point in this, you're never saying, hey, this is incorrect. You're saying, can you prove it?
Okay.
Right. And so you're never saying this is incorrect or this is fraud or, this is a mistake. All you're saying is, under the Credit Reporting Act from 2009 that Obama signed, you're allowed to challenge as many things as you want, right? And there's a difference between challenging something and disputing it. If you're disputing it, you're saying that's incorrect, that's not supposed to be there, that's a mistake, identity theft, whatever it is, right? If you're challenging it, all you're saying is, hey, I see this is on here, I'm challenging you to verify and validate this information. And so you can do that and still perfectly legal, perfectly ethical, because, again, you're not claiming anything that's not true. All you're saying is prove it, right? And so then the burden of proof falls on the credit bureaus to do their research and do their jobs and conduct an investigation.
So how would you suggest someone go about doing that? Just going through one of these credit bureau type things, or? I mean, surely we can't do it ourselves, right?
I mean, you can do it yourself. You can absolutely, if you have the patience to do the research and you have the patience to look up all the legalese and all the statutes and everything, you can absolutely write the letters and send them into the credit bureaus yourself, right? But again, it takes a lot of time. Now, if you want to pay someone to do it, obviously don't go for the companies that, for example, charge you monthly and will drag it on as long as possible, right? Most of these credit bureaus, most of these credit repair companies will say that a 609 letter, what they call a 609 letter, is the answer to all your problems. It was part of the act that I was telling you about from 2009, where a 609 letter asks the credit bureaus to make sure that information on there is accurate. But all that happens essentially is, they call whatever bank it was, let's say Bank of America, and they say, hey, is this accurate? Bank of America says, yeah, it's accurate. Okay, cool. We'll mark it as accurate. And then they send the investigation back, right? And they do that over and over and over again for months on end to say, hey, we're doing something, it's just not working. And so they'll drag that on for as long as possible. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether they say it's accurate or not. We want to make sure whether they can validate it or not. And that's where the key difference is. So, just make sure you're looking for a good company if you don't want to do it yourself. Make sure they have some sort of a satisfaction guarantee or money back guarantee. I've done a lot of research into this, and I found that there were companies out there that claimed, hey, pay us a one-time fee and we'll guarantee your results. And then I went through and read their fine print. I was like, okay, what does a guarantee mean? And their guarantee was, if we can't get this done in 90 days, we'll keep working on it for up to a year if we still can't get it done. And after that, you're just out of luck, And so I'm actually affiliated with another company right now. They do a one-time payment, and if they're not able to get anything off your credit report after 6 months, they'll refund you the whole thing, right? Yeah. And so you just gotta make sure you look for the right companies, do your research. And like I said, if you want to do it yourself, obviously do the research. Make sure you know exactly what statutes you're quoting, what laws you're quoting, and things like that.
So you want to say the company you're affiliated with?
If you want to learn more, just you can put my contact information on there.
Yeah,
and reach out to me, because I do have to ask a couple of questions to make sure that it is something we can help with. Unfortunately, a lot of people that we end up talking to, they have gone through so many of these credit repair companies that send the 609 letters over and over again that the credit bureaus have marked them as frivolous complainers, basically.
Sure.
And so they just disregard all the future mailings. And so, if that's the case, we got to make sure and ask qualifying questions and make sure that we can help, because we don't want to just take your money, because, we're results driven, right? So it's something that really just depends on a case by case basis. So
sure. So that answers Yang's question. How would you challenge? So I'll put send you out the links and stuff to contact Neel about that stuff. So watch out for the newsletter that's coming out.
And like I said, if you want to challenge it yourself, Yang, you want to be able to ask them to verify and validate all of the entries on your credit report. How you do that, like I said, you got to do some research on that, because I can talk about just one law for a solid hour, but you're going to put a lot of things together to kind of make that happen.
Cool. Awesome. That's good info.
Cool. So, so the next topic with how to qualify for higher credit lines. Now, this really depends on whether it's the personal side or the business side, right? So well,
let's talk about why you would have credit on the personal side and business side.
Yeah. So the difference between the personal and credit on the business side, right? For the most part, now there are a couple of exceptions, and I'll mention them, and I stay away from the exceptions. But for the most part, your business credit cards, your business lines of credit, do not report to your personal credit report unless you are late on a couple of payments, unless you default on that card, unless you do something wrong where you don't pay them back, right? Other than that, they don't report on your credit report. So that means that, let's say you have a $50,000 credit line on a business card and you use $50,000 every single month, but you're on time for all of your payments, right? That doesn't affect your utilization on your personal credit. Therefore, your credit score doesn't go down. And so that's kind of the biggest benefit for me, which is I can actually leverage those credit lines to actively invest that instead of waiting, to make sure that my utilization is low so my score doesn't get hurt and things like that. But other than that, it's really a simple way to just separate your expenses, right? For accounting, for tax purposes, everything, so that you can show that, hey, this is my personal credit card. This is everything that I use for personal stuff. It's my business credit card. This is what I put my AC unit on. This is what I put my flooring on, stuff like that, right? So it's a great way to separate that. But, beyond that, it also obviously helps your credit score, since you don't have to worry about your business cards affecting your personal credit score.
Nice. Thank you.
And the biggest exception to that is Capital One. Do not ever, ever, ever get a Capital One business card, because they pull a hard inquiry on all three credit bureaus, and they report everything, including utilization, to all three credit bureaus, whether you're on time or not, whether you're a great customer or not. That's just their default. They always report to the personal bureaus. And so, if you're leveraging that credit line, it's going to bring down your score because your utilization is going to be higher. So
what you're saying is that everybody else keeps it separate except for Capital One business credit card. Is that right? Wow, yes. That's weird.
Amex, business cards, they're charge cards. You get, Wells Fargo. You can get, U.S. Bank, depending on where you are in the country. You can get, Discover also reports your personal credit on a business card too. So Discover and Capital Ones are the ones that I stay away from. But everything else, Amex, Wells Fargo, the different banks, they all keep it separate.
Wow, I wonder why they do that. Any idea?
It's
weird.
Like everyone, Chase, Amex, Wells Fargo, all of them don't report it unless unless you're actually late on making 2 or 3 payments in a row, right? At that point, they'll start reporting to your credit score or your personal credit report so that they can essentially incentivize you to pay on time. But as long as you're doing everything right, Chase, Wells Fargo, Amex, all these places do not report it to your personal credit report.
That's interesting. Well, we've got an active member today, Yang. He's got another question. Thank you, Yang, for asking. What would be a good first place to get a small business loan from if you have low credit score?
It depends on a couple of things. Yang, how old is your business? Let's actually, if we can, let's unmute him so that we can answer his questions.
Yang, you feel like talking, or you want to type?
Hello?
Yeah, Yang. All right. Thanks for being active today. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you guys for hosting.
Yeah, anytime, man. So,
Yang, how old is your business?
It's brand new. Like I'm just starting it up right now. So I'm just looking for, it would be literally my first loan.
Do you have a LLC created?
No, like I'm still working up to getting everything set up. So I'm just kind of business planning.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, as far as a business loan, generally lenders won't give to you unless you've been in business for 6 months at least, and that's with a personal guarantee. If you want a purely business loan without a personal guarantee or without you having to apply for your credit score, then you'll have to have a business that's at least 2 years old that's making a certain amount of money per year. Now that's not just banks, that's online lenders, banks, and kind of everything in between. So, the first thing I would recommend in that case is just get your personal credit score up. And then once you do that, you can, like I said, in the meanwhile, create your LLC, let that age about 6 months, get your personal score up. And at that point, you'll be able to get significantly larger personal as well as business credit lines and credit cards.
So if I have, I guess my question is, if I don't have any income coming into my business for those 6 months, is it still valid then? Like it would still count as 6 months?
Yeah, that's fine. The reason for that is at 6 months, you still have to give your personal guarantee, right? You still have to apply for your score. And so not only will they ask you for business income, they'll also ask you for your overall total income. So, whatever income you have from either a job or another business you have or self-employed, they'll ask for all of that income. So since you're giving a personal guarantee, they take all of that into consideration and not just your business. Now, if it's over 2 years and you're looking, because you're making a certain amount of money in your business and you want to get one without a personal guarantee, then yes, you would need to have income and revenue in there. But if it's just, at 6 months, you'll still have to do the personal guarantee. So they'll look at your overall credit file, not just the business.
Do you happen to know what's the range between that first 6 months, that 6 months loan? Like how much it would be, about 35,000 to 50,000, or?
It really just depends on your personal credit file, man. So for example, if you've got higher than a 700, you can easily get anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. Right. Now, if you've got a lower credit score, then like I said, I would work on fixing that credit first. And then once you do, you'd be able to get those higher credit lines and higher credit limits and business loans as well.
Oh, yeah. And then, sorry, I have so many questions.
Go ahead. Man.
So for the FICO score, right, does that includes your student loans and everything, right?
Absolutely. So, well, it depends. So who do you have your student loans through?
I know they were Great Lakes.
Okay, so if it was Great Lakes, it might be Discover. Discover does report your student loans to the credit bureau. My FICO will have anything on there that is being reported to the 3 credit bureaus by your lenders. Mm-hmm. Now, some lenders just don't report to credit bureaus. I've had a couple of lending accounts that don't report to the credit bureaus at all. And so that's the only reason why it wouldn't show up on my FICO. But if it's being reported, it's pulling those reports from the credit bureau, so it should all be on there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's on there because, I think that's what's hurting it.
Okay.
So I know that I was doing some research, and they were saying they'll recalculate your FICO score so that way your student loans don't affect you. So I guess they would look at a different score.
So what about your student loans is affecting you? Do you have late payments on there, or do you have something else going on?
Well, actually, I'm still going. It's ongoing. Like I'm still in school.
Okay.
So I guess it was back when I was still had my undergrad.
Okay.
So that's what, at least that's what, when I spoke with someone to fix my credit, that's what they were telling me.
Okay. Well, I'm not exactly sure if I mean, you can, like I said, my contact information will be sent out to you. And so, you can schedule a call with me and we can kind of go over it. But without looking at it, I can't really tell you exactly what to do or kind of how to fix it, if that makes sense. So, just reach out to me at a later time. We can schedule it and I'll take a look at it with you. But just kind of from what I'm hearing, I'm not exactly sure what's going on. There might be something else. So I just have to see it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so if you don't know, right, there's from the 3 credit bureaus, you can get a free credit report once a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to contact those 3. I think it's like freecreditreport.org or something like that. You can Google it and see it, but they will give you the real file of your credit score. So you can, and it tell you derogatory, it'll tell you good standing, it'll tell you whatever. So you want to actually, the first step is to see what, and it'll tell you utilization. Everything Neil's talking about, it'll just tell you. So free once a year, you should absolutely pull those down. Take a look at that stack of papers, walk through it, and see what exactly is affecting you. I mean, you believe us, you believe the other guys, whatever, but you want to see for yourself, verify for yourself what is on your credit report, and then you can say, "Oh, this isn't real. This isn't real," And then if it's really not real, then you can definitely do something. Or even if it is real, you can definitely do something.
Yeah. Also, Yang, another resource other than MyFICO is the Experian website, just Experian.com.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a free trial. It's like $1 for 7 days, and then if you choose to renew it, it's $30 every month. They pull your Experian report along with a FICO score for Experian every single day, and it updates every day. And they pull a FICO score and your full credit report from TransUnion and Equifax every 30 days. And so that's going to be your full credit report, including your credit score too. So you can pull your actual reports and scores either way, but that's just a quicker way to get to it. And that way you can kind of see what's going on. Experian will also break down by, it'll show you all your accounts, and on there you can also see, like, they have a section specifically called potentially negative, where they've highlighted the different accounts that have, either a late payment, a derogatory mark, anything like that. They'll highlight that for you. So that's a quicker way to look at it as well.
Okay.
Cool, Yang. Thanks for asking questions. You got any other ones?
Not right now.
Cool, man. Let us know and we'll answer them.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving right along.
Cool. So, again, as far as how to qualify for higher credit limits, it's just a matter of whether it's business or personal, right? With personal, you can always request a higher credit limit on any card. Certain banks will pull a hard inquiry every time you request a credit line increase. Some banks will just do a soft inquiry, right? So, for example, Discover and Amex are the 2 big ones that do only soft inquiry. So if you request a credit line increase from Discover or Amex, they'll do a soft inquiry and they'll tell you whether you've been approved or not. Discover does take it one step further. If they say, we're not able to approve you based on a soft inquiry, however, you can resubmit with a hard inquiry if you'd like. Now, you don't have to go through with that. You can if you want to, but it's nice how they give you that option, whether you want to take it or not, right? So now, on the cards that you can't request an increase or that you don't get one, if you can repeatedly max out that card and keep paying it off every single month before your payment due date arrives, then you should be able to get an automatic credit line increase every couple of months from the different banks. Amex is also one of the banks where they will, pretty much automatically approve you for credit line increases. This is done automatically by the system on the algorithm. If you have a good credit score and you have good payment history, they will increase your credit line every couple of months. If you go on the business side, if you get an Amex business card, for example, I just recently got the Amex Business Blue Cash. And so with that one, you can get it. And then right when you get it, if you apply for a credit line increase, they'll run a soft inquiry, and you can ask for up to 2.5 times your original credit line. And as long as you have a good credit score and a good credit report, they will improve you automatically right when you get the card. So it depends on the bank, and part of this comes down to research as well, because these rules change, all the time from bank to bank and card to card. So I can tell you what works well right now, but a lot of it is just keeping up with the research and keeping up with the changes on different cards.
Hey, I think we had another question. I thought I saw someone pop up. Was it Sean? Sean, did you want to talk? Did you have a question? If not, just I thought I saw something pop up. All right, sorry about that. Go ahead.
That's all right. And so, obviously, we talked a little bit about separating that personal and business financials, right? It's easy at the end of the year to go to your accountant and say, hey, here's my business credit card. Here's the receipts that went along with each of these transactions. These are all business. This is on my personal credit card. And you don't really have to have receipts for that because it's all personal, right? So, and then you can easily separate that out instead of them having to go through your statement on the same card and, pick out the different business expenses. You've made it really simple and really easy for them to itemize it and submit it when they do your taxes, right? So that's another big chunk of it.
Nice. That's good. That's good stuff right there. So the key, I think, is on that side is to bring down your utilization and pay on time, and don't get hard inquiries, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, hard inquiries aren't necessarily horrible. Now, for example, the worst types of hard inquiries are for credit cards, right? Yeah. You've got a bunch of hard inquiries on credit cards. That's going to bring your score down the most. But if you have, let's say, inquiries for an auto loan, you've got 10 of them within a 2-week period. Generally, they're not going to be counted against you because the credit bureaus know that you're going to be shopping around for a rate. If they're mortgage inquiries, same thing. As long as they're condensed into a certain time period, they're not going to hold that against you as much as they would if you had 10 credit card hard inquiries within a span of 2 weeks, right? So you just got to kind of plan that out and make sure that if you get approved, you're probably going to take it, right? A lot of people that I know, they just kind of go apply for car loans just to see what they would get approved for.
Right.
But unless you're actively looking to purchase a car, like if you have no idea whether you want to buy a car now or not, or you're like, I want to buy one in 5 years, but I want to see what I'd get approved for, it's really not worth it. If you want to see what you would get approved for, go get a pre-qualification. That doesn't hurt your credit, but don't do it unless you're planning on actually taking it, right?
Definitely.
Hard inquiries stay on your report for 2 years, for 24 months, but they don't actually affect your score after 6 months.
Okay, interesting.
So after 6 months, they don't really hurt that much. After a year, they have no impact whatsoever. And so, they stay on there just so that lenders can see a history. But other than that, after 6 months, the effect is minimal. After a year, there's no effect.
Wow. So why the hell do they stay on for 2 years if there's no effect?
Just so the lenders can see the history.
Okay.
They can see, for example, Chase has a rule they call the 524 rule. If you've opened more than 5 revolving accounts in the last 24 months, they will automatically decline you for any of their cards.
Wow.
You could be of course there are ways around this, but in the general sense, like if you can be a millionaire and if you got more than 5 cards in the last 24 months and you apply for Chase's entry-level card, which is like their Chase Freedom, right? You can still get declined even with all the assets and all the income. Wow. Because that's a pretty standard rule. Now, like I said, there are ways around it, but it's not something that's easy.
And I wouldn't think that someone who has good credit tendencies, I guess, would open 5 accounts in 2 years, right? I mean,
Well, I mean, you could like, for example, I do a lot of travel, and so I utilize my credit card rewards to the maximum extent that they could be used. Right?
okay.
We got top statuses with a lot of hotel chains, a lot of rental car companies. You know, for example, I just rented a car this last weekend. I paid $20 a day for a Corolla, and I just walked onto the lot and took a Mercedes convertible off, you know? So it's different things like that, right? Credit cards isn't just about having money that you can use. It's also the rewards aspect, the miles, the points, and all that stuff, right? And so Chase has that rule because back in the day when you can just get as many cards as you want as long as you get a good score, people would just get cards, get the sign-up bonuses on the cards, and then, you know, that'd be it. They wouldn't really make any money on it. So that's kind of why they clamped that down, not necessarily even for credit risk, right? So, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That's good to know. I don't think I've ever opened up 5 in 2 years. Maybe I need to open some up, huh?
I mean, you know, there are a lot of great benefits, right? Like, for example, the American Express Business Platinum card. You get free WeWork membership, you get Uber credits, you get you know, rental car statuses, you get hotel statuses. So it really just depends on kind of what you're using the card for. But whatever you're spending the most on, there's a card for that. Yeah. And if you can either get a good cash back rate, you can get points, status, whatever it is. You know, there's something in it for everyone. You just gotta be smart about the way you do it.
Right. Don't let the interest kill you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because that's a big hole, right? I mean, once you get behind, it's tough to get ahead, you know.
You know, and people don't realize this. They do it for the sign-up bonuses. But if you're getting 3% rewards rate on your card, but you're paying 16% in interest, you will carry a balance for 2 months, and you just wiped out all of your rewards.
Yeah.
And that's what the banks want, because that's how they make their money. But at the end of the day, you just got to be smart about how you spend it and how you put it on a credit card.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's definitely a warning. Don't spend more that you can afford, for sure.
Yeah. And so that brings us to our last topic, which is how to build $100,000 or more in credit lines, right?
Nice.
This is a little bit of a trickier subject, and it really depends on whether you want a line of credit, whether you want a credit card, things like that, right? If you want $100,000 in just credit cards, then you really have to know the different bank rules. For example, we just talked about Chase's 524 rule, right? If you have more than 5 accounts in the last 24 months, they're going to automatically decline you. There are a couple of other rules too. I've got some notes here. Let me double check.
So we're specifically talking about personal line right now, right?
Well, personal and business. So like, for example, Chase 524, if you have more than 5 accounts on your credit report in the last 24 months, whether you're applying for a personal card or a business card, they're still going to decline you.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, you know, some of these companies, like, for example, Amex has different rules for business versus personal, right? And the biggest example that I can think of on that is, as a personal customer, you can have a gold card and a platinum card. But on the business side, for the same business, you can't have the Amex Business Gold and the Amex Business Platinum. So there are differences like that. But for the most part, if it applies to the personal side, it also applies to the business side, right? So, you know, when you're looking to scale this, right, you also got to make sure that you're looking at the right research. You want to make sure which cards pull from which bureaus, which cards generally have a higher credit line attached to them when they get approved, and just their different rules. For example, with American Express, you can't have more than 5 credit cards with them at one time, right? So if you've got 5 and you try to apply for another one, again, even if you have $1 million in the bank, they're not going to approve you. Even if you make $1 million a month, they're not going to approve you because you can't have more than those 5. Now, if you have 5 on the business side and you apply for 2 more on the personal side, then yeah, you can get it because it's tied to each entity, right? So if you got an LLC that separates it out, so you can get it at different times. But you can't have more than 5 on the personal side and more than 5 on one particular business. Bank of America has A little bit of a more complicated rule. They don't do more than 2 cards in 2 months, more than 3 in 12 months, or more than 4 in 24 months. So that's kind of their version of Chase's 524 rule. Barclays is really sensitive to hard inquiries. Barclays has the American Airlines Advantage Aviator card. And, you know, if they have a 624 rule, if you have more than 6 accounts in the last 24 months, they'll decline you. So you just got to be aware of all of these different rules and kind of the different rules that each of the different banks play by. And you got to plan out your applications to make sure that you're going to be satisfying each rule as you go down the list. And then if you plan it out enough and, you know, you get the right cards, you can easily, and if you have, let me preface this with, we talked about having a good credit score and how to fix your score earlier. So if you've taken all those steps, you have a good credit score, low utilization, and everything else on your credit file is good, you can easily get anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in credit lines in one day.
Wow. Wow.
And I have done it before, so.
Yeah, that's interesting because I've had like one of each of those cards. You know, I've had up to like, you know, 6 or 7 cards, but dwindled down because some of them they'll close your account if you don't use them.
Right. And I've got reminders on my phone every couple of months, you know, because I've got my daily users, right? And I've got my usual business cards, but stuff that I have for like the lounge access, a status, whatever it is, those cards I don't use regularly. And so I've got reminders on my phone, hey, go to McDonald's with this card, or, you know, buy coffee, do something so they don't close it down.
Yeah, I mean, it gets me all the time. And it used to not be like that. You know, they just stayed open forever. But nowadays, I guess they don't want to. Yeah, I don't know why they do it. I really don't know. But they do. So you got to use them at least like a once a year or something. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, my Barclays card did that to me, and a different one, I can't remember, but that did it to me too. So I have to remind myself too, hey, just go buy my, you know, Home Depot stuff with this card, something.
Right.
Gotcha. Cool.
So you got any questions for me, or anyone else have any questions for me?
Anybody want to talk or text any questions? Feel free to go ahead and ping it on the Q&A or raise the hand or whatever. I think you did a pretty thorough job about explaining things to us, Neil. I appreciate it. I don't see any questions here. And I will definitely give me your info, and I'll put it into the email that goes out to the people who signed up for this webinar. And also, I want to let you guys know that what I was talking about earlier, if you want to get, I'm affiliated with a business credit entity as well. So if they do look at your credit, you have to go to myfico.com and sign up. But if you go to businesscreditfunding.org, you can read up on all their qualifications and stuff. But that's another resource for you guys as well. But I'll put a link up here or down here or something. But other than that, no more questions. I think it's that time, Neil. Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your time as always, man. It's always good talking to you.
Absolutely. And like I said, I'll send you my contact information. And if anyone needs help with credit repair, or if you've got a good score and you still can't get funding and need help, just feel free to reach out and we'll see what we can do.
Awesome. And I'll go ahead and put this on YouTube as well. If you guys don't know, my YouTube is Johnny the House Buyer. So take a look at that. And as always, be a light, speak truth, change lives, and I wish you much success in your business and in life. Peace out. Thanks, guys. You have a good evening. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.